Welcome to the Cruise View, and today we've officially entered extended cruising time. We're now on day 8 of this 10-night itinerary, and that officially puts us beyond the average 7-night cruise length. And the good news with that is, in addition to it being day 8, it is also for the 8th consecutive day, once again warmer than yesterday. Today I'm coming to you from the Centrum shops on board the Grandeur of the Seas, pretty much right in this exact center of the ship in terms of decks as well as forward to aft of the ship, right in between the two stairwells. And today was a fun day for everyone on board the Grandeur of the Seas as we arrived in Labadee, Haiti, Royal Caribbean's private island, which has seen tons of development over the years and is now pretty much an all-inclusive resort just for the cruise guests. This morning we arrived at about 9:30 a.m. and when we pulled in, the Explorer of the Seas was already waiting for us. She arrived at 8 a.m. this morning, carrying her 3,000 guests, which combined with our 2,000 guests gave just over 5,000 total passengers for the island. And if you were to combine the gross tonnage of those two ships, it would come out to 211,125 gross tons, which actually puts, while there are two ships in port, fewer passengers and tonnage than if a single Oasis-class ship were to pull into Labadee. So that's pretty impressive and really goes to show you just how big that Oasis-class actually is. So this was not my first time to Labadee. I've been there 2 times before. I went on the Voyager of the Seas back in 2004 and returned in 2007 on the Liberty of the Seas. At the time, it was a deserted island in 2004, and by 2007 they had started to develop with the addition of a zip line. But since then, the whole place has just been completely redone, and pretty much unless you intentionally looked for a certain piece of land or a certain item on the island that you could recognize from before, you were not going to see anything that you would even know that you're on the same place as it used to be. And if you've never seen the new Labadee, be sure to watch my complete tour video, just like the Falmouth one from yesterday. You can watch it and see everything the island has to offer. Even with 5,000 plus guests on there, there's still plenty of room as long as you looked for it. As I walked around the island, there were places that had chairs pretty much right on top of each other. Everybody was just crammed in at those beaches. Then you walk 5 feet farther and suddenly there's just wide open beaches. So when you go there, you really got to just look for where it's open and not stop at the first person that offers you a chair, or pick a beach and set your heart on that, because you're probably going to be thinking of the same exact beach as everyone else, which happened today as most people went to the very first beach they saw, or they went all the way out to Columbus Cove, which is normally, I guess, pretty empty, but today, with the Explorer already being in there, a lot of people went directly to Columbus Cove in order to avoid the crowds they assumed were stopping at the earlier beaches. So that one ended up being pretty crowded, whereas on the other side of the island, at Adrenaline Beach, there was absolutely nobody. There was one line of chairs. You didn't have too deep of chairs, and that single line of chairs was only maybe a quarter full, so there was plenty of room for everybody. You pretty much had the beach to yourself if you chose to go over there. So be sure to actually look around and not just pick a spot and stay there, because you might get stuck in a place you really don't want to be. And as for the rest of the day then, once things settled in, everything seemed to flow pretty well. There were some issues with the food on the beach, unfortunately. With 2 ships in port at once, there were a lot of people to serve, and the duties were split between both the Explorer and the Grandeur's crew, and that didn't seem to go all too well. They ended up actually running out of food at the end and had lines about an hour long. Supposedly, they underestimated the number of people that were going to be on the beaches. I'm not quite sure how they could do that, since ships carry a very finite number and are actually at lower capacity at the moment, since it is low season at the start of January. But hopefully they'll figure it out, and next time they'll have enough for everybody. As for departures, the Explorer left at about 4 p.m., so it was all aboard at 3:30 for them, while the Grandeur did not depart until 5 p.m., so that gave an extra hour of beach time for everybody on the Grandeur. But pretty much once the Explorer left, Labadee was just deserted. You had a few Grandeur passengers around, but really, while only 60% belonged to the Explorer, it seemed like in terms of the capacity of Labadee, it was closer to about 80% that belonged to the Explorer. And as you always hope for when there are two Royal Caribbean ships in port together on that rare occasion, they did have a horn battle on their way out. And to the weather. As I said, it continued to get warmer for the 8th day. Today we hit temperatures of 86 degrees and slightly above there at some points, which is the hottest of the sailing. We had wind speeds of only about 5 knots, which also puts it at about the lowest speeds that we've seen this entire sailing, and it was mainly sunny. So pretty much the perfect weather conditions you could want for the beach day of this itinerary. Sunrise this morning was at 6:42 a.m. and sunset came at 5:49 p.m. And this evening we've got waves of about 5 to 6 feet. And as for the dining room, tonight was another casual night. We've had a lot of those on this sailing. Not sure if Royal Caribbean's chosen to do away with the semi-formal, smart casual, however they choose to phrase it this week. But we have not had any of those this sailing, so we'll see if anything were to pop up in these last couple days. Our eighth spice is portobello, a mushroom that has become a primary ingredient in many dishes as a result of the varied means by which it can be prepared and served. The chef's inspiration begins with gourmet meatballs or a roasted garden salad. Features a delicious beef and veal tortellini, and ends with drunken Kahlua cake. And on to the compass summary. So, once again, we're in port, which means the ship's pretty much dead, no real activities throughout the day. And even though it was a Royal Caribbean-owned peninsula that we're on, they did not have any activities held onshore as they could if they wanted to, since they do own the property and are completely in control of everything that goes on there throughout the day. But at this moment, they don't currently seem to be doing that. This evening, things started out at 8:30 with the headliner act. Tonight it was James Stevens III, who did a comedic, impressionist, and musical act. To say it was quite hilarious and probably the best guest act I have seen on any sailing up to this point. He really seemed to have spot-on jokes that talked to the entire audience and knew how to really vary up the show to speak to everybody. This entire sailing has really had a lot of great headliner acts, a lot better than lineups I've seen on previous sailings. And following that, the evening then turned back in time to the 70s with a full night of events in the Centrum, starting at 9:30 with a 70s line dance class. That then rolled into 10 p.m. with a 70s song tribute with Royal Caribbean singers KP and Johnny. And that was basically two of the Royal Caribbean singers and dancers down in the Centrum singing some songs from the 70s live for all the guests waiting for 10:15 when the 70s Disco Inferno Centrum party started with the cruise director's staff. And pretty much if you've been on any Royal Caribbean ship, you've probably seen that, as that is pretty much the standard party that is done on all the sailings. And then following that, during the headliner show, Cruise Director Jeff Arpin announced a bonus event that was not included in the compass. At 11:15 p.m. tonight, we have adult comedy with Billy Washington, who is supposed to be the comedian for the final farewell show of the sailing, and he was brought out a couple days early to do an adult-only routine this evening. I guess Jeff had received some comments about wanting more of that following the previous one, so he went ahead and added it, which is always nice to see when they make those last-minute changes based on the guest feedback. So for tonight's venue, we've got casual dining. So we're going to take a look at the Windjammer and Park Cafe. The primary casual dining venue on cruise ships has long been the buffet. On Royal Caribbean, this is referred to as the Windjammer Cafe. While all ships built after the Vision class have featured the Windjammer at the aft end of the ship to reduce movement, the Grandeurs, like all others of the time, is located at the front of Deck 9. This gives the venue expansive 180-degree views out over the bow for the perfect views while pulling into port. In addition to the windows all the way around, the venue's main portion of the buffet is in a circle that features skylights to bring even more natural light into the venue. The Windjammer is the only venue to serve all three primary meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, every day of the cruise. The buffet is split in half, with each side being identical. As soon as you enter the venue are the Coca-Cola Freestyle machines. The first buffet section is then the salad bar. The second section features the drinks along with oatmeal for breakfast and soup for lunch and dinner. The main section, then laid out in a circle, features the usual entrees and desserts. The grill features made-to-order omelets for breakfast, burgers for lunch, and on port days, made-to-order specials such as stir-fry, burritos, and pasta. For dinner, the lights are dimmed for a more upscale feel, and unlike some of the other ships, the menu does not match the main dining room. Instead of a featured spice each evening, the Windjammer features a different nationality, and none of the items in the main area repeat. In addition to the seating all the way around the venue featuring views out to sea, the Windjammer on the Grandeur also features outdoor seating on either side of the pool deck. This location is also the spot for the ship's ice cream machines as well as coffee machines on the port side. The success of the Park Cafe on the Oasis of the Seas has led to it being added to other ships in the fleet during the royal revitalizations. On the Grandeur, it's located at the back of the adult solarium. Like the Windjammer, it serves 3 meals a day, but instead of dinner, it's a location of late-night snacks, offering a selection of desserts, chili cheese fries or nachos, hot dogs, and pizza each night until 2 a.m. The venue has 3 separate areas: a main counter for food, a secondary made-to-order area, and a 24-hour drink section. For breakfast, the Park Cafe offers oatmeal, a selection of parfait and pastries, as well as breakfast sandwiches and a bagel bar. At lunch, the made-to-order station is changed over to salads, while the main section offers a selection of soups and sandwiches. During busy sea days, the venue is often assisted by the addition of a picnic station set up alongside the usual offerings. With a calm atmosphere and plenty of seating spanning the entire perimeter of the solarium, the Park Cafe, while not in an actual park, is still a great location to relax and grab a bite to eat. So as we close out day 8, I started this episode by saying that for the 8th consecutive day, things have been getting warmer, and unfortunately that trend stops today. We've now got 2 sea days heading due north until we arrive back in Baltimore, so it's pretty much colder and colder every day and pretty much every hour from this point on. But that's more sea days and, of course, more activities on board the Grandeur of the Seas throughout the day, so we'll keep watching and see what happens. Thanks for watching this edition of The Cruise View. Once again, I'm Picone. You can follow me at DMPicone on Twitter, and be sure to check out some of the links that follow with many events and tours, including, of course, what I mentioned earlier, the Labadee tour and that 70s Centrum party.